everybody, Z Garcia here, and today I'm taking a look at the latest scenario pack for Marvel Champions. This is Trickster Takeover. This is going to come with two scenarios in here. You have a fight against Enchantress, and you have a fight against Loki. Again, yes, it's a different fight. You also have one modular encounter set in here, very cool one. And then the big splashy feature of this is that you can play epic multiplayer mode with the Loki scenario in here. Meaning, if players have multiple copies of this, they can play their own groups and all link up basically to defeat this tremendously strong, Loki, God of Lies figure that is throwing you sort of illusions, and you're defeating those things, shattering those illusions, which in turn hurt him. So you're all feeding this one massive fight, helping each other in a way that we've seen before in games like Arkham Horror, the card game, but never in Marvel Champions. This is the first one to do that. Let me go ahead and give you a little bit of a look at what comes in here, how it works together. We'll come on back after that. I'll tell you what I think of this. The Trickster Takeover scenario here is going to come with two villains that you can play against. We've got Loki, God of Lies, or Enchantress over here. We're going to take a look at Enchantress first, who is the simpler of the two. The idea here is that Enchantress is going to be attaching a copy of Hypnotic Gaze to each identity in play, each of the players. And at some point, once this has enough charm counters on there, from her charming enchantments, then this is going to flip over and give every player a forced action that they must do. Something not necessarily good, but every time they have a turn, at some point during that turn, they have to do that action. And so that is the idea. These are all going to look the same on the one side, so you don't know what you are getting. And at some point, after she has put enough of these on you, generally from attacking you, after she attacks, she gives you one charm counter if you have the on the attachment here, if you are defiant. Then you are going to flip this over. We'll take a look at one, okay? Okay, you have a Trance of Envy on this one. It's a permanent. Your identity changes to Enthralled instead of being Defiant. This will matter for many things that we'll check for that. And then, when this is revealed, you're going to discard a card you control. Otherwise, you discard the top 8 cards of your deck, if you cannot. Forced action, exhaust this card, give Enchantress a face-down boost card, and ready your identity. They're sort of double-edged swords, you'll notice. This idea of doing something terrible, but then you get to ready your identity, and you have to do this again, means that she is making you envious, right? So you're going to do something that's going to propel you while helping her. And they all have a little bit of that sort of feel of a give and take. Very interesting stuff, and absolutely one of the things that makes the scenario what it is. She is going to, on her first main scheme here, anytime that somebody would get one of these charm counters, but they've already flipped over, then instead that becomes threat on here, accelerating the main scheme. Other things in here, you're going to have her deck. She's going to have a lot of side schemes in here that do a lot of funky stuff, but I'm not going to go into every little thing that it does. It deals with a lot of, and you've seen this card before, probably. It deals with a lot of, her enchanting people and her sort of locking down options for you until you remove that side scheme or deal with whatever the thing is. One thing I want to mention before I jump over into Loki is that this comes with one modular encounter set. This one right here called Trickster Magic. They suggest you use that both in Enchantress and in Loki. Of course, you can do whatever you want to. But this is absolutely one of the coolest modular encounter sets I think I've ever seen in this game. The idea being Enchantress and by extension, I guess, Loki and the other one, they're going to have these characters that they have enthralled and are working for them. Zax here, Titania, Whirlwind, Absorbing Man, characters you've seen in other things. There's also a couple of side schemes in here as well, including some really nasty ones. But here's the thing. These characters that are very, very tough, once you knock them out, it says when defeated, the player who defeated this minion puts the set-aside Zack's ally into play under their control. These people hate her so much that when you knock them out and take off basically them being enthralled by her, they'll turn around and help you instead. So, for example, Titania here. She has steady, she has 8 health, she hits you for 3, and it has overkill. Pretty nasty stuff. But then once you take her out, you go over here to these cards that you've set aside, and you grab Titania, and she comes into play helping you. She is linked to that Titania minion. Victory 0, so it will go away. This does not become part of your main deck for the rest of that scenario. It goes into the victory display. Does not count against your ally limit, and she has the same ability. She basically has overkill and piercing in this case. Hits for 3, 2 consequential, which is not great. But of course, you can always attach things to her to help her out. So I love thematically what that does. That idea of, letting you turn these people around, villains really, and having them help you momentarily at least, just because she's so terrible. So pretty cool stuff. I love that idea. Very interesting. And that is largely what Enchantress is going to be doing. It's a fairly straightforward scenario, actually. Okay, so Loki is the one that is certainly not straightforward. So let's take a look at that. Now, Loki is the very first scenario in this game that you can play as sort of a massive multiplayer thing, because you have Loki, God of Lies, and you have this Worlds Collide main scheme. But then you can play, as long as you have multiple copies of this Trickster Takeover scenario, you can be playing multiple games against Loki, God of Lies here, with all of those specific groups, and then you can even make groups of groups, which they call pods, fighting against one copy of Loki, God of Lies. Everybody else gets one of these scenarios that becomes part of their own, group. This could be 1 or 2 people, let's say, over here, another 1 or 2 people playing here with their own copy of this, and another 1 or 2 people playing over here with their own copy of this. Let's pretend that's what it is. We are going to shuffle up these that are called the avatars of Loki, and everybody would have one. And again, it could be the same one for each of those groups because everybody has their own copy of the game. But let's say for now, it happened to work out like this. Everybody has this, and everybody has an avatar of Loki. There's this reminder card that gets set aside, and we are going to be playing against this guy using, this standard main scheme here. Again, this is like the overarching stuff, right? This has a bunch of health. But as we, the players, knock down the different avatars of Loki, instead of damage, we are technically shattering an illusion. And we're going to put shatter counters on here. When he is finally shattered, we flip him over and it tells you that you shatter the illusion, meaning read this card. And that card tells you, take all those shatter counters and move them over here, and they become damage on Big Bad over there. And then you are going to give yourself another figment, another sort of, illusion here to deal with. So that's the idea. There's also, some rigmarole, of course, that as this here becomes completed, the token that would go on there transfers over to Worlds Collide, and this can have a certain number based on the groups of players that are in play. So one of the ways that these groups can overlap and interact with one another is with these environment cards. Everybody has 4 environment cards. They begin empty. But as you complete and knock out these figments, they will, as it says here, you choose a group in your pot. It could be your own group, but you can give it to somebody else. Let's say these guys are really in trouble, and we just knocked this person out. We're like, okay, well, we're going to help you guys out. You choose a group in your pod, then you place synergy counters on their feigned retreat environment equal to the number of players in their group. Let's say it's 2, 2, and 2. Great. The feigned retreat is this environment right here. And it says It's a permanent. It says, interrupt. When an identity would take any amount of damage, you can remove 1 synergy from here and prevent 4 of that. If they're getting wailed on, we can put those counters by knocking this Figment out on their environment. We're like, hey guys, take 2 on Feigned Retreat. And then this goes away, gets shuffled up into the other ones, and then we get another one of these illusions, these avatars. So we're helping each other out with these environments. That one prevents damage. This one over here, you remove a synergy counter and you get 2 wild resources. It's just tremendous stuff. This one, you remove 1 and you add 4 additional damage to an attack. And this one here, you remove and then you thwart an additional 4 threat when you thwart. So really strong stuff. And that's the way that the groups are going to sort of connect and interact with one another, the main way. There's, of course, a lot of reading. You need to figure out how things link up and work out. There's also the fact that when he goes down to a certain number of health, half basically, he's going to flip over and get a little bit nastier. But I'm not going to go into all of that. That's generally what's going on in this one. And again, this has suggested the same modular encounter as you would put in Enchantress, which of course you can then take out and put in any game you want to, and believe me, I absolutely will do that. So there you go. That is Trickster Takeover overview. Let's go ahead and go back up top. So I have to be transparent right up top and tell you that I have not played Epic multiplayer mode. I've not been able to do that. I know they had events for that at Gen Con this year, and I know it happened there quite a bit. I was not able to participate in that, and I don't know anybody else who has a copy of this yet, so I haven't really been able to do that. I am extrapolating what that's like from having seen and read about the event at Gen Con and from reading the rules, okay? So be aware that, you know, there's a little bit of a grain of salt there because that weird, funky mode they're including in this, I have not partaken in. Having said that, I think this is a fantastic scenario pack. It gives you 2 really good fights that are, especially when it comes to Enchantress, pretty straightforward, like in a surprising way. This is a fight that I would not be super hesitant to show this fight to someone that has just experienced, say, the core box. There's nothing weird, particularly strange or weird when it comes to Enchantress. I mean, that card that she, you know, enchants you with and then you flip over and have to do a thing is neat, thematic, it feels good, and it does not throw you for a loop so much. There are mentions of steady and stalwart in there, but that's okay. Yes, those things aren't in the core box, but they're not that strange to figure out. So I was very pleasantly surprised by how straightforward that fight is. Very much not the way that the Loki fight is, but, you know, you get there, right? It is an advanced scenario in a way. I also alluded to already in the overview how much I liked the modular encounter that comes in here. I think it is tremendous. I really do think it's fun. I love the idea of, and I guess the pack kind of does that a little bit, is hurting you, taking something away, your life, and then giving you something back. That very much speaks to me. I really like that idea of being able to free these villains from the main bad guys and then using them against that fight. So it might be one of my favorite modular encounters ever. I really, really like it. I can't wait to keep trying it in more and more stuff, honestly. As far as the Loki scenario goes, I like the way that they are tackling one team, one group, communicating with another group in that pod, right? It's very well done because I do like the way that you can, as you are defeating those avatars of Loki and getting little bonuses, you can then take a moment, look around and go, all right, who needs this? How you guys doing? You want to be able to hit harder? You're having trouble closing? Then take 2 tokens on whatever. I love that communication. They do have a warning in there about sort of playing fair and not slowing down. You could technically play really slow to let another team kind of catch up and close the door. I could see that being a problem. It's very much against the spirit of what we are doing here, so I think just play naturally, and as other teams interrupt you and tell you, hey, take this, or do you guys want that, as that naturally comes up, enjoy that experience. Don't try to game the system, so to speak. Playing alone still works out pretty well. Yes, you lose that idea of one team helping another team, but the game is going to be faster. It's a decent pace playing with a single group, so to speak, 1 or 2 players, right? Whereas I can only imagine playing with multiple groups in multiple pods. That's got to take some serious time. And they have in the rule book here, which is a pretty hefty rule book, but that's because they spend a good chunk of it explaining how to deal with playing in separate game areas and talking about group pods and suggesting that if you have enough teams that you just denote that one player be an event organizer with possibly a whiteboard tracking how many of those shatter counters have become damage on the big Loki. That's a lot. Instituting a time limit, possibly. I mean, they talk about a lot of stuff here in order for you to run this big, bad, massive, fight against Loki, which is pretty cool. I like it. I like what's going on. I look forward to maybe trying that. I don't know if I want to go crazy with the amount of groups, but 2, 3 groups playing together, one single pod, so to speak. That sounds very intriguing to me. I would be down for trying that out. So I think they've tried something new here, something kind of bizarre, something that they are somewhat lifting over from Arkham Horror, the card game. And I think if any one character was going to be a fantastic fit for that, it is Loki. And they nailed it. I think it's very, very well done. I'm going to be dinging this one a little bit for the complexity that it brings and for the fact that I still have to deal with all of the rules and verbose explanations of things when I want to play just by myself or maybe 2 people than when I want to play massive multiplayer like that. I would have loved a couple of cards I can switch out so that the verbiage is simplified, clarified, and I don't have to deal with this idea that this even plays with more people if I was just playing standard. And then you can swap in the let's go big cards. And a couple of them change, and then it tells me what I'm supposed to do with all of that. So I ding it a little bit for that because I have to deal with some extra stuff unnecessarily. 90% of the time I'm going to be playing Loki, right? But the whole thing is really, really fun. This is a fantastic pack, folks. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I am so glad that they came out with something this strange that is certainly optional. You can still play Loki the same way you play every other villain you've played up to now, but you have something epic, truly epic to look forward to here. So Trickster Takeover from me is going to get a 9.5 out of 10. I think it is tremendous. The baddies are great. The theme is great. There's even a little story in here tying it all together, how Loki goes to Enchantress and suggests that they take over the world. The modular encounter is fantastic. The whole thing is really, really good. I think it's just excellent. So give it a shot. 9.5 out of 10. That's a seal of excellence, folks, from me. Thank you very much for tuning in and checking this one out. My name is Z Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.
Hey, thanks for watching another video here on the Dice Tower. We really appreciate you stopping by and checking our things out. Thanks so much for joining us today. And hey, if you really like what we're doing here at the Dice Tower, then there are different ways to support the Dice Tower. One of those ways is through Patreon. We have links in the description to this video. And we have links to lots of other things we do down there, so definitely check it out. But either way, we're glad you watched us. Tell your friends about the Dice Tower. Until next time, though, I'm Tom Vassell, and I hope you enjoyed this video.